I wanted to ask you, and like navigating that as a Hispanic woman in STEM, because I know that it's not necessarily always the best community for women of color, especially. And I just want to know, what has that been like for you, and what would you say to younger girls who want to get into STEM?
Yeah, so that was it's been interesting because, right, I grew up in Colombia. My mom was an engineer. Everyone around me is an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. So I grew up in a place where like I'm in the majority. So to me, it's like, of
Mm-hmm.
course, like Latinx can be engineers because like I'm in Colombia. And then I moved to the University of Texas. And at Texas, you didn't feel it as much either because 20 something percent of the undergraduate population at UT Austin is Latinx. So then there were, I wasn't even the only Colombian in my class in
Mm-hmm.
BME. So then I feel like when I moved to Texas, I didn't feel it as much. But then over time, I've somehow progressively moved to spaces that are dominated more and more by the white majority. So then
Mm-hmm.
over time, I have felt it a lot. So
Yeah.
it's hard because especially as you advance, so like in undergrad, there's some number of us, but then in graduate school, fewer, and as a postdoc, which I am now, even fewer. And for
Yeah.
faculty, for female Latina faculty in the United States, there's less than 10 in the whole country. So then that can get hard because you can start wondering, like, is that because like people like me cannot cut it, or and sometimes it can be really hard to find mentors. And
Yeah.
so one thing that we did recently is with one of my friends, Dr. Brian Aguado, and I, who actually I should connect you with because he's going to start as a professor at UCSD next year.
Oh wow. Okay.
And he's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah. So the two of us co-founded Latinx in BME. And so this is a group. We work primarily on Slack, and we have people from undergraduate students, grad school, professors, staff members, people in the industry. And so I think the most important thing for people who are in that situation is to try to find kind of like your community and your support group that's going to help you both professionally and personally.
And so kind of on that, I was going to ask next, did you have a mentor that kind of led you towards the current career path that you're on?
When I was at UT, and actually pretty much at every step of my academic journey here in the US, it's been really important to connect with people who are also from Colombia or who are also Latinx. Sometimes it's connecting when you're in college. For example, I participated in the Women in Engineering program at the
Mm-hmm.
University of Texas. Even now with the If Then Ambassadors, it's like another very diverse community of women. So I think it's just like trying to find things that already exist. Sometimes we feel like we have to like reinvent the wheel and create our own networks, and we do. But other times it's more about plugging into existing networks. And the nice thing about young people now is that with social media, with the technology that exists now, it is so much easier to find people, even if you're
Definitely.
not like, geographically in the same place. And then as far as mentors go, oh, I've had a lot of really good mentors. Um, Probably my biggest mentor has been my PhD advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So she is amazing, and I don't think I knew she was awesome, but I don't think I realized how awesome she was
Mm-hmm.
until after I like left her lab.
Right.
And then another really big mentor of mine, and this is kind of funny. So when I started doing research in undergraduate school at the University of Texas through the Women in Engineering program, I randomly landed in this woman's lab, Dr. Christine Schmidt. And then I worked in her lab. She really helped me get into graduate school, write me reference letters, etc. And she's like, we've kept in touch since. And then around the same time when I graduated Texas, she left to become the chair of the Biomedical Engineering department at the University of Florida. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we've kept in touch over the years. And the funny thing is, like last year, I started applying for faculty jobs. And so I will become a faculty member at the University of Florida. And so like my first boss is going to be like my new boss
Mm-hmm.
next year. And so that's kind of like a full circle moment. And
Yes,
maybe that's another
exactly.
lesson, right? That like you never know what happens in the future, which is also why you should cultivate relationships and like be nice to people.
Yes, most definitely, most definitely. And so how would you say that somebody, maybe my age or even somebody who's like an undergraduate in college, how would you recommend that they approach somebody and ask them like, hey, would you mind like guiding me in my career path?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think it's something I was always really scared of when I was
Mm,
younger, but I think it has worn off. I think sometimes it can feel really awkward to be go up to someone and be like, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" That almost it's almost like you're asking them out, and it sounds
mhm,
corny and funny, but oftentimes all you have to do is go up to someone and be like, "Hey," like you, for example, you could be like, "I'm interested in biomedical engineering and I want to learn more about it. Could I ask you a few questions?" And most of the time, people are going to say yes. And if they
yeah.
say no, usually it's not because they don't want to help you. Sometimes it's just that they don't have time. Usually, everyone is willing to answer a few questions, and people really like talking about themselves. And then the other thing is that there are formal mentoring programs specifically for Latinx mentees. There is this program called Científico Latino. And in that program, I have a mentee and I like regularly meet with her and make sure that she's like doing okay and meeting her goals. So then it's possible there could be programs at your school, at your high school,
Mm.
in your neighborhood that could also help you find an actual assigned mentor.
I guess kind of one of the most important questions that I'm asking here. What is like a piece of advice that you would give to somebody my age, even a middle school student, just young girls looking to get into science and particularly the life sciences?
Yeah, I would tell you to dream big and to just like the sky is the limit. I was telling you at the beginning, when I was little, I didn't even know that my degree, my field existed. So
Mm-hmm.
like so don't feel constrained by the things that people are already doing, because who knows, by the time you're a professional out in the field, there could be a whole other area of science that we have yet to discover. On the topic of communicating is
Mm-hmm.
that I also so I know how to crochet. So I use my crocheting skills to make and teach about crocheted microbes. So if anyone wants to follow me on social media, usually more or less every Monday, I'll teach you something fun about a new microbe. So, and that's also to say that another thing I didn't know when I was little is that it's okay to mix science and art. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
choose one or the other. There are lots of careers that combine both. I mean, it's not my primary career, but if I wanted to, I could probably turn it into a career.
Yeah. And that's a super cool and unconventional way too to look at science, because I feel like so many
Yes.
people think that like scientists don't have this science like sense of creativity, when in
Yeah.
reality I feel like a lot of scientists, especially women in science, still have that element of creativity, and I think that what you're doing is a beautiful way to show people that and get more people interested in it. So yeah, I think that's all I
Yeah.
have to
Thank
ask.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
And
thank you.
that's yeah, and that's spot on, because I think sometimes we forget that science is creative.
Mm-hmm.
In order to,
Exactly.
right, we have to be creative to ask these questions. And
Exactly.
then the other thing is, like, in the topic I study, it's microbes, which by definition we cannot see them with the naked eye, so it's really hard to get people excited about something you cannot see. And
Yes.
so that's where I think arts can play a pretty big role.
Yes, definitely. Okay, well, thank you very much.